Good Wednesday morning, everyone. Hope yours is going well. Today we're going to be talking about the Seahawks defense. That's right, the defense, which according to some fans is pushing aside the 85 Bears. It's shoving to the ground the Minnesota Vikings Purple People Eaters and driving their elbow down on the Steel Curtain Steelers, climbing all the way to the top and looking down on every other defense in the history of the NFL and thinking that was the best you could do. Okay, that is hyperbole. That is hyperbole. But some people are really high on this defense right now. A lot of people are being a little effusive with the praise of this defense. So I want to talk about it a little bit because the reasons why people are sympathetic to this defense are clear, and I can understand why people are saying positive things about them. There are some positive things to say, and I can understand why people have some sympathy for them. They understand that they are in a very bad situation right now because of other things happening on this team. So, there's a lot of stuff being said about this defense right now, but I want to dig into things a little bit more because I think something needs to be understood here as we head towards this offseason where there could be and should be a lot of change. This Seattle Seahawks defense through 11 games is okay. It's maybe on like the borderline between okay and good. Maybe it's on the low end of good. Like it's pretty good. It's like bad cut of steak. You know, it's still steak. You'd rather be eating it than chopped liver, but it's not a very good cut of steak. You wish you were having a better steak, even though you're grateful you're not eating cat food or something. So I I want to make sure that people understand that this defense, it's not that good. It certainly isn't great, and it's not even close to being as good as it should be or as good as we needed it to be, all things considered. Because I don't want people to get to the end of this season believing that Ken Norton is some defensive guru all of a sudden. We need to give him a 10-year contract and Pete Carroll's a mastermind again. No. I want to avoid that. So let's talk about this defense at length. Okay, so there's some good stuff here. Let's start with the positives. The Seattle Seahawks defense is 6th in points allowed, meaning 6th fewest. That is a good thing, obviously. They are 6th in points allowed, so it's a top 6 defense by scoring. It is the worst defense in the league in terms of allowing yards. They have allowed more yards than any other defense. Now, everybody and their mother, even if the mother doesn't watch football, she knows via osmosis why this is. The defense is on the field too much. They've been on the field for over 800 plays. The offense has only been on the field for a little less than 600. So everybody knows that. Everybody knows why this is. If you take a look at our yards per play, yards allowed per play, we are actually slightly above average, 5.4 yards. We allow 5.4 yards per play on average, which is slightly above average. And given the fact that we play more plays than anybody else, it's actually pretty admirable. Going back out there on the field over and over again after a 3-and-out, 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 it's hard. The fact that they've held up as good as they have is legitimately really impressive. And for that, we can definitely say, hey, this defense is giving this team a chance to win in most of their games. There have been a couple games where the defense was obviously unexcusably bad, and it should be obvious to everybody. The Vikings, the Cardinals, just a defensive no-show on every level that there's no excuse for. But the body of work is good. The body of work is relatively solid. Like I said, slightly above average despite playing more plays than anybody else. However, I think that analysis needs to be dug into even a little bit more because Everything I just said about the Seahawks defense, it means that they are playing well enough to give the team a chance to win. That's how I would put it. They are consistently giving the Seahawks a chance to win, but they're not winning the game. The opportunities this defense has to go out there and win a game, put the team on their back, and just say, you know what? We don't care about the offense. We are going to overpower this opposing team. We are going to bully their offense so hard that we can win even if the offense doesn't do it very much. That's not happening. So before you crown this defense as the next iteration of the Legion of Boom or the next 85 Bears, the next Purple People Eaters, just understand that the defense is not taking over games the way that those defenses did. And that would be understandable if not for these two metrics. Okay, so the first thing I want to take a look at here a little bit is turnovers. We have forced 10 turnovers this season. So we are 28th in the league in total turnovers. We are all the way down near the bottom. We do not take the ball away. We have 10 turnovers through 11 games. And maybe even more criminal than that is that our defense has yet to have a multi-turnover game. Every game we have either 1 turnover or 0. So we are not taking over the game on defense in terms of turnovers. And some people have tried to argue that turnovers don't matter if you're not allowing points. Well, what would help this team more right now than a possession that gets set up in the opposing red zone? Like, what if you could get an interception and take it back to like the 18-yard line, and then your offense only has 18 yards to go? What if you could score as a defense? Okay? I understand we're getting into the territory now where your defense goes from good to great, but what's wrong with wanting greatness out of these guys? What's wrong with wanting greatness? Forcing 1 turnover a game, not even 1 turnover a game on average, is not greatness. So I have to step in strongly on the notion that this Seahawks defense is anything even approaching great when they don't take the ball away. What is football if not, what is defensive football if not looking at the other side of the line of scrimmage and going, okay, that team has the ball. I want the ball. They have it. I want it. I'm taking it away. What swings a game harder than taking the ball away? And we don't do it. We also have our sack percentage, which, do I even have to say it? Our sack rate is second worst in the league, below 4%. Only Atlanta gets less sacks per snap than we do. And this should not be drastically affected by the number of snaps we have. Same for the turnover rate. Maybe it would affect it a little bit, but it wouldn't affect it to this degree. These are 2 key stats in determining who wins games in the NFL. And we are right near the bottom in both of them. It's a miracle we're not at the bottom in sack rate. Okay? A lot of these long possessions that go on for 16 plays that end in a field goal, like what we had against Washington, yay, we held them to a field goal. Boo, maybe if you got a sack and forced them into a 2nd and 20 situation, you force a punt. But we don't get sacks. We have this incredibly low pressure rate. A lot of our pressures, by the way, just result in big plays for the offense because the QB gets away. Like, how is this elite? So those are the 2 main stats I really want to look at here. And these are not, like, little things, okay? Turnovers and sacks are 2 of the most important things you do as a defense. Sacks are negative plays that force punts. Turnovers are game-changing plays. And we don't do either of those things. So miss me with the defense has everything figured out now. Defense, there's nothing wrong with this defense. The defense is doing everything they need to do. That's not true. And I want to show you guys 2 more stats before we move on to the next part of this video. Okay, so this is what is called EPA. EPA stands for estimated points added. So basically, This formula, it's a complex formula. Look into it if you would like to. I recommend it. It's very interesting. It basically takes every single play that a defense has and determines how many points were added or subtracted from the opposing team's expected point total at the end of the game. And from this, it determines which defenses are playing the most effectively from play to play. If you go down this list, you will find the Seahawks pretty close to the bottom. 25th in expected points added per play. 0.053 points added per play. So any notion of this defense having everything figured out needs to be met with a healthy dose of taking a look at a number like this where they are among the bottom 25 percentile. So it's not just they play too many plays. This is per play. Yes, you can put some of it on them being tired at the end of the game, but that doesn't always happen. We allowed 3 touchdown drives in the first half against the Vikings. We allowed an 86-yard touchdown drive to Colt McCoy at the start of the game against the Cardinals, first drive. And then we allowed another long touchdown drive before the half. This is before the defense should be tired. That is not an excuse. And then we also have success rate. Success rate basically takes each play in a vacuum based on the down and distance and determines whether or not the play was successful by the defense based on how many yards the opposing team got. So on 1st and 10, I think anything that is 6 yards or more is successful. Anything less is not. Seattle Seahawks, 23rd in run defense success. So bottom third. 32nd in pass success. Last. So these guys got stuff to figure out. Yes, they are doing some things well. Yes, some of this stuff is admirable. But there are a lot of numbers here that tell me we got stuff to figure out there. And before you think about cutting the defense slack, additional slack, on top of the slack you've already given them for the offense struggling so much, I want you to think about who's on this defense and think about what has been put into those players. And I've done this before, but I'm going to do it again because it is so important that we understand this. Okay. Think about the players on this defense. I'll start with the defensive line. Carlos Dunlap. Big contract. Big money. Poona Ford. Meaty contract. Pretty big money. L.J. Collier, first-round pick. Darrell Taylor, second-round pick. Rasheem Green, third-round pick. Al Woods, free agency contract. Not a big one, but you still looked at Al Woods and said, hey, I want that guy. Benson Mayowa, free agent re-signing. Not a big contract, but again, that was a guy you looked at and went, yeah, I want that guy on my team. You chose to put those guys on your team. These are significant investments we have made. We have made serious investments along that defensive line. And they don't get sacks. They barely get pressure. They don't generate the pressure that would create more turnovers. These things are linked. Pressure equals turnovers, equals game-flipping plays. The only guys on this defensive line who are throwaway, who don't have the investment in them, are Robert Kimdichie and Brian Monet, who is ironically probably one of our better defensive linemen so far this year in terms of getting a decent pressure rate. But the investments on that defensive line are significant and clear. Linebacker, Bobby Wagner, monster contract, huge contract. Jordan Brooks, first-round pick, big investment. Go down the list. Cody Barton, third-round pick. I know he doesn't play, but you spent a third-round pick on him to play linebacker, so I'm not letting you off the hook for that. The linebackers on this team that we don't have an investment in, John Radigan, yeah, okay. He hasn't played a snap, so he's a special teamer. Nick Bellore, converted fullback, or, well, I don't know where he was initially. Like, it's basically chicken or the egg with him, but you see what I'm saying here? Money, time, capital, all these things were given up to bring these players in here. Okay? This defense has had years and years to be put together by a head coach who is supposed to be a defensive guru. Okay? I don't want to live with just okay. Okay is not good enough. And then the secondary, God, do I even have to say Jamal Adams, all the stuff you gave up for him, all the money you gave him, Quandre Diggs, you traded for him too? The guys on this defense who you don't have a big investment in are at corner. DJ Reed, yeah, he was a successful reclamation project, very cheap, very well done there. And Sidney Jones. And by the way, Sidney Jones is only out there because the Trey Flowers thing, which you did invest time and resources into, blew up. So Sidney Jones wouldn't even be a factor right now if you had used your Trey Flowers time a little more wisely on either a different player or coaching him in a different way or something else. But the point is, it's your fault he's out there. Obviously, Trey Brown, he did play part of this season, but he's missed most of it, so we're not going to include him. But there's certainly an investment of draft capital there. So, Carroll's had, this is now year 4 of the post-Legion of Boom rebuild. Year 4. He's gotten to spend all kinds of draft picks and money and time on this defense. Honestly, given who Carroll is and given the resources he's put into this defense, it should probably be top 5 minimum. I would say top 3. I think that's a reasonable expectation. If Carroll's going to be this defensive guru, if he's going to get all these resources that, by the way, could have gone to the offense that is really struggling right now, then I'm going to hold him to a very high standard. And he's not meeting that. Pete Carroll has no right to expect effusive applause for setting the target 3 feet in front of him and then hitting it. Okay? Not good enough. Especially with the fact that we knew we had a new offensive coordinator this year, and we knew that we were going to have to be learning a new system. We knew all these things, okay? We knew all these things. So we knew we needed the defense to carry a lot of water. And look, I would be willing to play off some of this stuff with the excuse of, well, it's way easier to play offense in the modern NFL. But we are comparing the Seahawks defense to their contemporaries. In some of these areas, they're good. In some of these areas, they've done things very well. But in some areas, they are bad, terrible, worst in the league. Okay, and again, I'll say it again. Turnovers, your turnover rate should have nothing to do, or very little to do, with your offense hanging you out to dry. Your pressure rate shouldn't either. I don't see this team getting a ton of pressure early in the game and then running out of gas. No, they don't get pressure the whole game. So, to those of you who are going a little nuts right now with the praise of the defense, just, I don't know, have slightly higher standards is what I'm trying to get at here. We put a lot into this defense, and right now we're getting third-rate cuts of meat out of it. See you guys later. Go Hawks.